So I have done a little bit more, what do you call it, running stitch, and I decided that I would fill this little bit in here with a bit more seed stitch, and I'm just drawn on a couple of wiggly lines because I'm going to follow those lines along with a chain stitch. I'm going to have to stand up because I can't see what I'm doing. I find chain stitch quite versatile, and it's one of the first fancy stitches, if you like, that I ever learned from my granny. This was like a revelation, that you could make little circles with a bit of thread. The more things you start to get on, the more things start to get hooked up. If you're doing this in your hand, it's so much easier. On the frame, it's just because you can't bend it, it makes life a little bit more difficult unless you're coming up and down. Try and keep your stitches a similar sort of size, and don't pull your thread too tight, otherwise you won't get that chain effect link. We're getting hooked up everywhere now. I have to say, I'm loving the colours of this thread, variegated thread. I do love a variegated thread. I can remember making the letter, or stitching, so should I say, the letter R on the back of my pocket of my jeans, a pair of jeans, or it might have been corduroys, actually thinking about it now. It was a bright red letter R, all fancy, scrolly. Because back in the day, when I was at school, you did handwriting, and our handwriting teacher happened to be the head teacher, Mr. Wainwright. And I loved it. I loved the handwriting. Learning how to do the cursive writing with the little flicks on the end to join up, that you learn to join up. I think they call it penmanship now, if they still do it in primary. I know a lot of children in the secondary don't have a style. They're sort of just allowed to write whatever. However, so I'm getting a bit ruffled up. Let me just untwiddle. If your stitches pull a bit, just give it a wiggle. The Reggie keeps woofing because he wants to go out on the front, but the high winds have blown down two pieces of the fence panel, and it goes onto next door's driveway, but they don't have a gate across the front of their drive, so because we live on a next to the road, well not on a main road but next to a road, I don't want him out there in case he decides that he's going for a little trot along the road, because he'll take himself off across the road. I live directly opposite some fields, beautiful fields, and that's where we're taking for a walk, but I feel like he'd take himself off if he got the opportunity. I'm just unwiggle myself again. So I'm going to carry on along these two lines. I'm going to come along. Can you see the colours are starting to fade into a green colour? Beautiful. These ones are actually from, I know where these are from. These are from a lovely lady called Paint Box Threads, if you look her up online. I think she's got an Etsy shop. But I bought a load from the Harrogate Knitting and Stitching. So I'm going to carry on along there and up that one, and then I'll come back when I've finished. So I'm back. Cup of tea, and I thought I'd swap threads. I'm not sure what I've got. It's like a silky satiny thread, and make a bigger chain. When you're doing the chain stitch, there's so many different variations on it. You can make them big and long, detached on their own, which is called a lazy daisy stitch. So I'll probably do a couple of those at some point along the way. The only problem is I've got a longer piece of thread, and there's three things that are happening. I'm getting hooked around these little knobbly bits, I'm getting hooked around the pins, and I keep bashing the camera. So if I'm giving you a wobble on the head, I do apologise. But I'm trying to sort of not come up like I would if I was stitching ordinarily. No one tells you all this stuff that you have to learn when you start filming. If you were to come back on yourself on this chain, you would, this would be a foundation stitch, and you could come through and make little, like a chainmail type thing. It's almost like a crochet stitch. But as I say, the bigger, longer, tighter that you go, you can change it so much. It's so versatile. In fact, every stitch is versatile in embroidery. I mean, some people are going to argue that these stitches aren't slow stitch, but as I look on slow stitch as a meditative form of stitching, I think any stitch goes, absolutely any. Right, I'm being summoned by the sun and air, so I'm going to leave you there, and I will come back tomorrow with the next stitch. Okay, happy stitching everyone.